Hey guys, Ben Pakulski again from the Mi40 gym in downtown Tampa. Today I want to talk about tension versus load. And I know a lot of you guys hear me talk about tension all the time, and tension is key, tension is king. But why? Have you ever sat down to think about it, or have I ever explained it to you? And now to compare the difference between tension and load, it's not the most sexy video, it's not the most glamorous thing, but understanding this can really help you open your eyes to why it's so important to train this way. So what does tension do? What does creating tension in muscle actually do on a physiological level inside your body? So think about this. Every time we train, every time we maximize the amount of tension or stress going through a muscle, we're making our muscle cells more receptive to nutrients, insulin, amino acids, hormones. We're creating a systemic hormonal response within your entire body. When you're just moving load, there's a difference, because what your body is doing is generating momentum or inertia, and the weight is effectively floating through space. So any of you science geeks out there, you guys are well familiar with inertia momentum. It's a matter of creating an accelerative force, and the weight literally floats, and then you catch it again at the bottom. So at the bottom, the weight actually weighs more because we're catching it with this accelerative force. But throughout the range, there's literally zero tension. It's literally floating. So if I had a weight in my hand, a 5-pound weight or a 10-pound weight, and I threw it up in the air, it would literally be the same thing that most people are doing when they train. They throw it, and they catch it again at the bottom. So one, you're predisposing yourself to a heck of a lot more likelihood of injury because you're catching an accelerating object coming down on you, which is a lot of people tend to hurt themselves. But you're losing all this potential opportunity to generate tension in a muscle. And tension is the currency for growth, right? If we can make a muscle contract more under load through its entire contractile range, we get all of these muscle fibers now being more receptive to nutrients, being more receptive to insulin, amino acids, hormones. But whereas if we're just training in one little part of the range, not every muscle fiber is going to be contracting. So if you imagine one muscle fiber looking like this, that's the one muscle fiber that's fully lengthened range. That's in the mid, and that's in the short. So most people only contract back here in the lengthened part of the range, and they never get their muscle fully short. And it's been a lot of research done that suggests a 30% greater neural output in the really shortened position. So if your muscles have to work that much harder to get a muscle really, really short, you'll find a lot of you guys, especially for your weak body part, it's actually really hard to get a muscle really short. It kind of like takes work, or your contraction flutters. It's not very good because your nervous system isn't trained in that position, which is what, guess what? If you're not trained in that position, it's probably your greatest opportunity for progress, right? We're only as strong as our weakest link. If you're really weak in a short position, your body's not going to go there. Let's think about your body's natural tendency to avoid where it's weak, right? Your body doesn't want to go where it's weak. What happens if I were to quickly grab your arm and pull it back here? Your body would have a natural defense mechanism to keep it in the middle of the range. When your body senses instability, it automatically tightens up, or it senses weakness, it tightens up. So, what we're trying to do is allow ourselves a greater range of motion with strength and stability. So I want to be able to go way back here. Even though I'm not going to go back here with really heavy loads, just the ability to go back there at all is, one, going to keep me injury free, and two, allow me to train through a slightly greater range of motion with just a little more mental freedom. So I'm not going to be so stressed. There's not going to be any anxiety. My brain is going to be okay with going to these ranges. I'm going to feel strong, I'm going to feel comfortable, and more athletic. So anyone who wants to be athletic, anyone who wants to improve their physique, all these things are very, very important. Training with tension, maximum tension. So when we suggest, training through a full range of motion, I still want maximum tension, but I don't want to lose tension. So that's the difference between tension and load. So load is only half of the equation of tension or torque. This is an argument that a lot of people would love to have with me, or love to have with anybody who understands mechanics. Progressive overload, everyone says, well, progressive overload is king. And I'll argue with you on that. So what is progressive overload? Progressive overload is, in most people's eyes, improving or increasing the amount of weight on a bar. And I'll tell you, that's bullshit. Increasing the amount of weight on a bar or a dumbbell is bullshit when it comes to hypertrophy, unless your form stays exactly the same. And in most people, as soon as you put a little more weight on the bar, guess what happens? Or a little more weight on the dumbbell, guess what happens? The form changes. And that's a huge influencing factor on the amount of tension or torque going through that muscle. So unless you're considerate of that when you're training, don't be so quick to accept progressive overload as the end-all and be-all of hypertrophy training. Only consider you guys thinking about not being so attached to progressive overload. Ben Pakulski out.